Well, welcome back everyone to the Energy Update Weekly for the week ending September 10th, 2022. So let's get looking at the boards and see what happened this past week. We're going to start with crude oil, looking at WTI, West Texas Intermediate, which is the benchmark petroleum or crude oil for the U.S., $86.79. That's up $3.25 over the previous day. So it has dropped pretty good in the past week, maintaining kind of that mid-80s level. Pretty stable prices of fuel here in Rapid City. I don't know again what regular gas is, but diesel fuel was down to $4.85 and now it's back up to $5.91. So kind of just hovering in those same areas. Okay, total number of rigs running in the U.S. last week is down 759, and that is up though still 250 some over a year ago. We're going to keep watching this into the fourth quarter and see if the rigs increase or decrease going into fourth quarter. Okay, frac spreads last week were +2, and which is good. So that's again, it's kind of stable. You look down through these numbers and it bounces up and down 2 or 3, 4 each week, but is relatively continuous. Okay, the U.S. Petroleum balance sheet from the Energy Information Administration from the U.S. government. We look at the stocks of petroleum, excluding the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, 427.2 million barrels, and that's an increase of 8.8 million barrels over a week ago, and a significant part of that increase comes directly from withdrawals from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve that lost 7.5 million barrels last week. So this 7.5 million barrels is going into this supply. Over the year, Strategic Petroleum Reserve is down about 30%, 28.8. 178.8 million barrels have been taken out of Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So I'm just putting you on notice here that is not a good thing. Strategic Petroleum Reserve is for strategic situations militarily. That's what they were created for, and pulling out of them for the domestic supply when we could be drilling and producing other wells in the U.S. instead of shutting down the oil activity. They're pulling out of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So whoever is making these decisions are not making good decisions. And if this continues to go down, then that oil is gone when we get into a strategic situation. Okay, if we look through the products, motor gas, 215 million barrels. That's pretty standard what it was last week. Very little change. Down a little bit from last year, but those are just yearly fluctuations that are monitored as the demand for these different products are out there. Carojet, about 39 million barrels, pretty consistent with a week ago. Distillate fuel oil, real consistent with what it was last week, down quite a bit from last year. And total stocks, excluding SPR, 1.225 billion barrels. Okay, domestic production last week matched the previous week, so 12.1 million barrels per day. Net imports, 3.3 million barrels per day, including Strategic Petroleum Reserve, so most of that came from there. And so total input into the refineries down from the previous week, down to just under 16 million barrels per day. Okay, so if we go and look at refinery, the average daily for the week ending 9/2 is just under 16 million, 15.9 million barrels per day, and that was at a 90.9% capacity, which is down 2 to 3% over what it's been for the previous month. Okay, so we've been keeping track of this oil stocks at Cushing, Oklahoma, which is one of the largest, or the largest, crude oil storage facilities in the United States. And you can see back in 1916, 17, 18, it was up to 70 million barrels. That's what they were storing. And you see this had high fluctuation, continues to go down, then back up and down. And right now we are down to just over 24 million barrels, 25 million barrels in stock. That's more of what the averages were back from 2004 to 2009. in there. So we'll just keep an eye on that and keep watching that as we move forward with this. Well, in the past we have been looking at oil provinces and looking at the number of rigs that are operating in individual provinces and the depths and horizontal versus vertical and oil and gas. And I think we've gone through most of those, so I just wanted to show you some other products out there that are quite interesting. This is a product from the state of Wyoming, and it is a map here that shows all of the crude oil and gas, so all petroleum producing areas in the state. And so if we zoom in, as we continue to zoom in on this, all of the wells that are in these particular fields, so all these colored circles in here are oil or gas fields, and as we get into a certain level it will begin to populate with the wells. And so you can see all these dots represent a well in these various fields. Okay, so it's a pretty amazing product. We'll just take a real quick look at some of the fields I've worked in the past. So down here in kind of central Wyoming, really close to the Continental Divide, two fields, the Warts field and Lost Soldier field. These are old fields, started being developed at the end of the 1800s into the early 1900s, and have had drilling activity as recent as the 2010s. And is in mainly production status today. So I've done work on a lot of these wells out here over the years out of our Casper shop when I was working in the oil field. But for this data, you just click on it and it comes up with the so here 1919. Well, this is for the field. The Warts field started being drilled 1919. Looks like the last well drilled out there was 1989. There's 178 wells, 78 oil, 11 gas, 84 are injection wells now, which means that they've been taken out of production, and the production water that comes out of oil and gas wells today are re-injected into these injection wells to maintain pressure in the field, which allows the oil and gas to continue to be produced. So this is an oil field. It's a Pennsylvanian age reservoir, and you just get more data out of here. Now you can grab these API numbers. Let's find the API number here. It should be listed here for the well. Maybe we need to go to the next screen. Okay, so here's the actual well I clicked on. The first screen was field information. Here's the API number right here, and if we grab that number and go to another one of the Wyoming websites, you can enter that number and you'll be able to get all the information for that well, all the formations that well encounters from surface to depth, and then all the production data, everything regarding that well. So a really neat interactive website. I use this exclusively in my drilling engineering class that I teach, where each student has to do a well design during the course, and so I'll pick a field in here and everybody has to go in, pull out so many wells, and produce cross sections of the subsurface strata, and then pick a spot and say, I'm going to drill a new well, and then they design the well as part of the class. So a lot of states have these types of interactive maps. They're very helpful and very useful in looking at what that state does in their production scenarios, and then how they allow the public to view this data. And you can go out and look at well logs and do all the interpretive work, and you can do reservoir analysis and whatnot with the information you get off these websites. Okay, so as we move forward here, I don't know if we're going to continue this on a weekly basis. It takes a lot of time to make these videos, and this series doesn't appear to be getting a lot of viewership, so I might be reducing this down to every couple of weeks, or maybe just once a month, and look at a monthly status of the petroleum industry. So if you're watching this, thanks for watching. Share with others. Let's see if we can increase the videoship. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Maybe.